He didn't have much of a rack on him, but I just couldn't believe how big a body it was. And he took a few more steps, then you could see the other deer. And I said, I'm going to shoot this deer if he'll stop. He goes, well, just shoot him now. And he did stop over here next to the edge of the timber. I thought, I'm going to kill this buck. Down he went, and boy, I was excited. And he said, is that a whitetail? I said, yeah. He goes, I've never seen one like that. I said, me neither.
Well, howdy, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. This week, the four of us here. We got Johnny and Zip and Roger and Keith. So anyway, let me kind of explain to you. Y'all know who Johnny is. And Roger Raglin, almost everybody ought to know who Roger Raglin is. And the reason why I'm saying this, if you're watching people who hunt, this is a dude that hunts right here. And he's been doing it a long time. And then this dog right here, we're down at the G2 Ranch. And this dog right here, his name is Zip. And Zip is a cool dog. Zip looks like a lap dog. He is a good lap dog, but he's actually a good retriever too. And we've done dove hunts down here, and that little dog will go out there and get a bird like crazy. So anyway, we want to introduce Roger Raglin. He's from Oklahoma, and he's been doing TV shows for a long, long time. So Roger, appreciate you being on here. And I want to tell you, we're down at the G2 Ranch. Okay, the G2 Ranch is located in South Texas, and we've been coming down here for years. But this is your first time down here, isn't it?
Right, first time here.
So when did you start in the outdoor TV business, and how did you get started in it?
I got started making hunting videos back in the late 1980s, and did that for almost 15 years. And the only reason I never really thought about getting it, of course, there wasn't any such thing as TV back then. Getting back into the whole history. Outdoor media industry was really born with the hunting video. And we were the outdoor writers hated us because we were taking their spot,
Absolutely.
I grew up living my life, reading magazines, and in the back of it had the outfitters advertisements, and who you call, and print was God when I was growing up, and then the hunting video come along, and kind of took off I'll never forget the first time I ever saw bow hunting October whitetails was one of the first big videos to make it big. And they had 3 kills. And I actually saw a guy shoot a deer on camera with his bow, and I thought, oh man, wasn't that something, So I came out of that part of it, and got to be a part of the heyday of the hunting video. But it just didn't last very long. When television come along then in the 90s, mid-90s, TV kind of took over. The Outdoor Channel and later then the Men's Channel and then Sportsman's Channel.
Yep.
It killed the hunting video. It killed, and I hung on as long as I could until whatever year that was. I guess it was 22 or in 02 or 3, the same year that Michael Waddell started his road trips.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. We started the same year in television, but I would have never done television if the hunting video business had just dried up.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we wound up, okay, Johnny is much years younger than Roger and me. We're about the same age. And I wound up, I actually started outdoor television in 1984, but it was fishing. There wasn't any hunting shows.
Yeah.
Okay. The only way you get your hunting fix was to buy an old VHS tape.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We bought the VHS tapes, and we lived vicariously through watching these tapes and all. And so, if you would have looking back now, would you have ever thought that you'd be where you are today? Back when you were looking at those videos in the late '80s.
Oh Lord, no. I think about it all the time of my life, my adult life. Because I went to school a long time. My goal was to go to every college in North America, and I almost made it. But I just stayed in school and got a bunch of college. Every time I got a bunch of college degrees, and still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went back I graduated. My last degree, I got a master's degree from Duke University. That's the one in Durham, North Carolina, and went back to Tulsa, started painting apartments. I became an apartment painter in Tulsa
with a master's degree.
I had several master's degrees, but my last one was from Duke, But I go to the Sherwin-Williams store. I see there's Sherwin-Williams all over Texas still. And I'd laugh. Coming in, I told Josh, boy, I spent a lot of money there over the years at Sherwin-Williams. I go in the Sherwin-Williams store, and they'd call me the smartest painter in Tulsa. I'd rattle all, But and it didn't bother me. I liked painting, and it gave me a chance in the fall to do a lot of hunting. Painting slowed down in the fall, and stumbled into making a hunting video. Just want to see if I could make one, and that thing just evolved and kind of took off. And I think about it all the time. This is my 37th year in the business, and I thought I can't believe that I have got to spend my adult life, in front of a camera and hunting and fishing really all over the world, But white-tailed deer is what we were out hunting this morning, we're trying to shoot a nilgai. Mm-hmm. Well, today's the first time I have ever seen a nilgai, I almost said I ever seen, but that shows how my degrees didn't work. But, but there's some whitetails coming. Well, I couldn't keep looking at whitetail. I was always enthralled about hunting white-tailed deer. And in my life now, I've hunted whitetails in 33 different U.S. states, 4 Canadian provinces, 5 Mexican states, 5 time zones. Now figure out how I did that. There's 5 time zones. But I have got to hunt, spend my adult life hunting white-tailed deer and made a living, and a pretty good living at it. And still doing it,
So what is it about the white-tailed deer that turns you on more than any other species out there?
I think that it's the common man's deer. Anybody, and they can live underneath your nose. They can live in the suburbs of Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, and and then they can live on top of the mountain. If you go down hunting whitetails in Mexico, the Coues deer, they're up on top of the mountains. I was telling Brad, our guy today, I was telling him about the time I flew into Swan River, Manitoba, and then took a 3-hour drive up into the Porcupine Forest, northeastern Saskatchewan, as far north as the whitetail. We saw more moose than we did. Their range is that far north. They're just an incredibly adaptive animal, and every one of them is different. Every 8-pointer looks different. Everything about him, But Joe Blow, that's the plumber living in Sumter, South Carolina, can get up, work all day, and run out there in his backyard and
get himself a whitetail.
Hunt a white-tailed deer. So I'm just enthralled with the whitetail. I've always. And to this day, I just think they're the greatest big game animal on the face of the earth.
Well, Roger, speaking to that, you've got one of the most impressive whitetail trophy rooms in the world, I'd say. That's where I recognize you the most from is that trophy room. You always go from that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. My goal, growing up, my goal was just someday maybe just get to shoot one. I'd go into guys' houses, and if there was a deer on the wall or something, man, I'd go for that. Someday, I'm going to get me one of these. If I can just get one, And it took me a long time to get one. People say, you get so excited, and you're so, when you shoot one, And I still to this day do, because I remember what it was like to bust my tail and go day after day and not get one. Mm-hmm. I went for years before I ever shot my first one, but for a long time before I ever shot a really good one, I thought if I could just ever get one, of course I got one. I want to get one more. And that's why I am on this trip, I just want to get one more, So yeah, I do. We had, my wife and I, and I did, I thought about that here just the other day. My wife, bless her heart, has been with me over 40 years. And I tell guys that are wanting to get in the business, or it's a difficult business on a marriage, because you are gone a lot. But I married the right gal who I think that's why we stay married. I am gone so much, if I'm home very long, isn't it time for you to go somewhere again, But she didn't mind me hunting. Of all the gals that I was chasing, back when I was single, Darlene was just kind of one of the girls for several years, but she's the only one that she didn't mind me going hunting. You know, when she told her mother, she goes, you know, he seems to be gone a lot on weekends. Well, I know what he's doing, you know, and I'd rather him chase 4-legged deer as 2-legged deer. So she let me go, and she was you know, behind me going and doing kind of what I wanted to do. And that has actually helped my career. But we finally bought a new house, and it had to be a house that had a great big tall ceiling, you know, so I could cram a bunch of my deer up there, you know. And when we finally filled up every crack and corner of that house with a deer head, I got a lucky break in the late 1990s. I sold the marketing rights to my hunting videos to a company from Minnesota, and I got a pretty good check. And just about the same time, my mother called me. My folks were a little bit older when they had me, and I'm an only child. I'm blessed. I'm an only child, you know. And so, Alan, your brother, you know, yep. We're dear friends, you know. So, you know, I don't have any siblings, you know. So I was an only child, and my mom called me and she said, I think that your dad and I, we're just going to go ahead and give you your inheritance. Well, you know, my folks were just common people, just, you know, I don't think they ever bought a new vehicle, and it was a bunch of money. Now, I don't mean millions, but I mean, it was quite a bit.
Pretty good lick.
It was a pretty good lick. You know, and I told, where'd you go come up with this money? Well, we've been saving it over the years. So my wife and I bought 20 acres, 17 miles from downtown Tulsa, and I built a trophy room. And that's the first, we built the trophy room before we built our new house, you know. And
you got to get your priorities down.
You got to keep your priorities straight. And so I do have a pretty good collection of whitetails. And
how many you got, you think?
Oh, several hundred. Yeah, several hundred. What you know? What's really I hate to say what's really important. And when you walk in, I mean, there are other critters from around the country and around the world. Been to Africa a bunch of times, and all that stuff, you know. But whitetails dominate the room, and they're stacked pretty tight, and there's tall, 16-foot ceilings, and it's a 2,000 square foot building with of course I'm smart. There were no windows in my trophy room. What do I need a window for? It just takes up space, you know. But I started a pile over next to the safe where I keep my guns. I started a pile, and the pile has gotten pretty impressive. It's about chest high and 8 feet long, and it's just got nothing but some pretty good ones there, you know. So, but I don't do it now. I keep doing it, but I don't do it now just to try to make the pile. About 3/4, I say, about half the time when I shoot a whitetail, so I give it to somebody, or I let the ranch keep it. I just, it's not like I'm trying to grow my trophy room, you know. I still keep doing it because I still enjoy it. Yeah. I still really get a kick out of it.
So clearly you're mad at him as well.
Yeah, I'm still mad. Yeah,
I think that most deer hunters are always mad at him because they've got their own reasons. But it's like, to me, the white-tailed deer is a magical animal because it brings people together that never would have known each other otherwise. Think about that. I mean, how many friends have you met that have hunted all because, and that you know now because of white-tailed deer?
Oh yeah, right, yeah. It's I don't know. I'm just so thankful. I say it all the time. The most. And I'm a religious man, but the most I say God done good when He made a whitetail.
Yes, He did. I'm going to tell y'all something. A couple of things you may not know about Roger. I was at the Outdoor Channel that used to have a deal called the Golden Moose Awards. Okay, and the Golden Moose Awards is kind of like the big award deal for all the producers that air on the Outdoor Channel. And of course, everybody's in the room. Everybody that does the TV shows in the room. And they're presenting the awards, fan favorite, best produced this and blah, 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 lots of deals. And this guy needed a wheelbarrow to pick up all his awards. He swept everybody. It's like, who in the hell is that? Of course, I've seen his videos, but my God. I mean, this guy had a following. Like, it was unbelievable. Do you remember that night?
Yeah, I had a pretty good night. Yeah.
Yeah, you had a real good night. You were speechless. No, you weren't. You got up there. It was like, you were thanking everybody, boy.
Well, if you remember that night, I'd lost my voice.
Yes.
And I could barely talk, but I still managed to, I don't think the network ever forgave me because all their young superstars got shut out that night.
That was amazing. I was so proud of you because they go, there's hope. There's hope. You know, it's not all about the young guys. You know, it's good. And something else I was going to tell you. You know, Roger won up there, his trophy room, beautiful trophy room, but there's something in the middle of that trophy room that he plays. He kind of tickles the ivories. Talk about that piano.
Yeah. Now I've got a grand piano in the trophy room, and I'm when I was 5 years old, I started taking piano lessons, and my mother said that when I was just a little bitty tot, and they have some pictures of me, I'm talking about in diapers. She said if there was a piano, no matter where they were at, I pitched a fit to get up there and just beat on the piano with my fist or something. So my folks did not have. We were very modest, to be honest with you. But my dad, it's hard to believe, I still remember the day that they delivered. My dad bought me a brand new Wurlitzer piano when I was 5 years old. And Ricketts Piano there in Muskogee, Oklahoma, delivered it. And my mom said, now, here's the deal. You got to practice 30 minutes every single day. And once you start, you can't stop until you get out of school. You're going to have to keep taking lessons. And that was I agreed to the deal. And a lot of times, you know, this is a true story. We had a willow tree out in our front yard. And Mom would, she'd have that willow switch. She'd sit there and I had to practice that piano 30 minutes every day, and whether I wanted to or not, you know. But I kind of took to it. And I did good. And then when I got a lucky break when I went to college, I met a couple of people who were, because I really wanted to learn how to play by ear. You know, I mean, I could play Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and that stuff, you know. But I wanted to be able to play, just sit down and play anything. And I got around a couple of guys that were really talented and gifted musicians, and I picked up a few things, and over the time I was in Oklahoma City, I started out at a little Christian school there. I kind of made a name for myself all over the Oklahoma City area as a gospel pianist, and could have probably done it professionally, you know. But I still play almost every day when I'm home. I still get around on the keyboard pretty good.
Oh, I've heard you play, and you're dang good.
I got to tell this quick story. This is real quick. I don't mean to prolong.
Go right ahead.
Oh, that's what it's all about.
Okay, I'm a freshman in college in Oklahoma City, and my mom. That's about 160 miles from where I grew up, and my mom liked to go to church there in Tulsa at a little church called Rays of Faith Tabernacle, and it was a full gospel church. Okay. A real full gospel church, you know, swinging from the chandeliers and stuff, you know. I mean, but I called her and she said, "Why don't you meet me in Tulsa on Sunday? Drive over from Oklahoma City. We'll go to we'll go to church there at the Rays of Faith Tabernacle." She goes, "And then we'll eat lunch and you go on back to college and I'll go back home." And I said, "Well, all right, that's a deal." So I drove over. And on a Sunday morning, the church is packed. Big. It was a big church. And the pastor was A.D. Marney. And he had married a lady that had 4 sons. And one of the sons they were all preachers. They were young, but one of the sons was my age, and he was funny. He stood up and he said, "This morning Sam is going to preach." And I was so excited because he was just the funniest preacher I ever heard. And I remember I pulled him. I said, "Oh, I'm so glad we come over and going to get there." And he said, "But before he preaches, he has a song on his heart, and we need a piano player." Now, the sister Marnie was on the organist, and she would lead the music, you know, but she wasn't a piano player. And he said, "Is there anybody here?" This will be strange to some people from some denominations, but in Pentecostal churches, he goes, "Is there anybody here that could come to the piano and help us out? Help Sam out this morning?" And you know, of course, you know, people are looking around. And Brother Marnie looked out, and I'd done something there over the years once or twice, and he recognized my mother. He said, "Sister Helen?" doesn't your boy play the piano? Yes, he does. Man, I'm sinking down in my seat. I am. He goes, young man, would you mind coming up here to the piano and helping us out? Of course, everybody claps, I thought, oh, brother. So I go up and I get on the piano. And Sam gets up and he takes the microphone and he looks over at me. You say, well, he's going to sing Amazing Grace, or he's going, a bill back then a Gaither song, or something, He just took off and started singing. It's a song he's making up. He's making the song up as he goes. So I'm on the piano and I ping, 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 ping with my finger. I find what key he's in, and I followed him. He made up the song, and I made up the music. And we did it on the fly, and you'd think that we had practiced for 6 weeks.
You hadn't even talked about it before. You just walked right up there and did it. That's cool.
Right. He just, and what's really great, I could tell he had another verse coming, and I'll never forget, it was in the key E flat. So I hit a G minor, C sharp, boom. We had a key change to F. We had a key change in it, And from then on, and it didn't do it often, but occasionally we would do that, And I had to be with him. I was in Cincinnati, Ohio when he went by the church there on Cincinnati, Ohio on a Wednesday night when he gave up the church. He was pastoring a church there, and I had gone out there. And that has to be one of the last times that he was ever in the pulpit, because right after that, he left Tulsa and moved to Houston, Texas, and began honing his career as a stand-up comedian. From there, he went to the Sunset Boulevard, where he headlined with two other young comedians, Richard Pryor and Robin Williams.
Wow.
His name was Sam Kinison.
I'll be dead gum. Really?
So he became a famous comedian with those guys. And his comedies kind of over the top just a little bit.
All right, so I'm gonna change. So I'm gonna get you to tell a story about something that most people don't know about. You probably don't know about this, okay? And I don't know how many years ago, maybe 15 years ago, you loved to fish. I know you loved to fish.
Yeah.
And you got in a real bad boat accident. Okay, like a bad.
Yeah.
Boat accident.
No, it was bad.
Would you tell everybody about that?
Yeah. Well, I was doing a deer show, speaking at a deer show in Columbus, Ohio, in February. And, oh, boy, it was cold up there. You folks from Ohio.
I don't know how they do it, because every time I go there, it's cold.
Woo, man, I'm telling you, it was brutal cold. And I remember I still, in fact, I still got Big Red, but I was driving, but Big Red just barely would crank over. Man, it was brutal cold. And a guy kept coming by the booth. He goes, hey, you need to come down here and let's do a fishing show. And I said, well, I don't really do fishing shows. I said, I got this big new boat, this big, $800,000 up, and I'm over here in Sandusky Harbor and Lake Erie. I guide, and walleye, we'll do a walleye. Oh, no. And he called me about every 2 weeks. You need to come down here. No. So finally I thought, I got to get this guy off my back. So I said, I'll tell you what. I said, in the dead middle of the summer, which is, good downtime for you and me, type of thing, I said, if you can find a place for us to stay that'll feed us and put us up, we'll come for a few days. And the next day, he called me and said, here's a number, call this number. And Kalahari Resorts, what is that? So I called, and Damaris Mars was her name. She goes, yes, Mr. Raglin. She goes, we run Kalahari Resorts, which is like the Disneyland of the North. It's a big deal. Mm-hmm. She goes, we have 2 suites for you. How many days are you going to stay? And while I'm talking to her, I'm pulling up the website, looking at it. I'm going, a week? We'll stay a week. She goes, well, we'll have vouchers for you. We have 9 restaurants here at the place. We look forward to having you come. I said, hey, so I'm vacation time. So I grabbed 2 of the kids, and Darlene drove all the way out there to Sandusky and got in there that afternoon, and it was kind of drizzling rain, and I thought, let's just go. He goes, no, let's go out and go fishing. He goes, it's supposed to stop raining. And So we go out on the water about dark, and it was about 10:30 at night. You know, of course we're wore out. You know, I mean, I said, well, we can hit it again tomorrow. And coming in, he even I noticed that, you know, there's a gigantic break wall there. You know, great big riffraff. You know, this big as a Volkswagen, and we went out on one side, but we're coming back on the other side. And we're going really fast too. And my wife, who was sitting beside me, she said, he's making me nervous. I said, yeah, he's going awful fast. And we're real close to the break wall, running parallel with it. And she goes, I'm going to go. And she walked up front. And I'll never forget thinking, if there was a deer standing there on that, I could shoot him with my bow. That's how close we were to it. And we were waking other, you know, there would be other boats kind of out in the water, even though it's at night. We were awake, you know, and the last thing I heard is my wife screamed, rocks! And we crashed just head on right. That break wall had a bend in it, and we went right straight into it. And it was catastrophic, to be honest with you. It's a miracle somebody didn't get killed.
I heard about that right after it happened.
Yeah, my wife has never, to this day, has never been the same. My wife's never been the same. She got really bust up, and it knocked me out, and I luckily did not get thrown into the water. I ended up having a double cervical surgery, you know, over the deal. The first mate broke his back. I mean, Josh was sitting beside me, and he got off the luck. It just pitched him out into the water, so all he had to do was just swim back, you know.
Wow.
But yeah, it was really a bad deal, and just a miracle that somebody didn't lose their life, you know. And there wasn't and it was a week before we were able to get just barely, you know, feel good enough to drive back to Tulsa because we'd driven out. And Mr. Johnson, the officer there, he goes, I just wanted to let you know what the report. He goes, 100% pilot error. Is what he said. Pilot error. This Coast Guard captain, he goes, he just was negligent. He goes, and there was no alcohol. It was not alcohol related. We didn't have a drop of anything on the boat, you know. So, but that went on for a lot. My wife slept in the chair in our living room for almost 6 months. She was busted up and broke ribs, and her mouth drooped for several years.
My goodness.
It was a bad deal.
Scary.
Scary.
I know most people didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
They didn't know that about you. I knew that, and I'm going to talk about something else about you.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that either. So I know a lot. But Johnny did some reading up on you.
Well, one of the coolest things I saw, which Keith will be interested in because we do a lot of hog hunting, is I saw that you shot a massive boar, didn't you? That was entered into SCI. Is that correct?
What?
A massive boar hog that was entered into SCI.
Oh, he was number one.
That's how much did he weigh?
Well, I shot a big hog that was about a 600-pounder, and he pulled a gigantic tooth, you know, and then about 2 years later, I broke my own record. It was with a muzzleloader, he was number one, and then I broke that record. And then I had another one. I forget how. I think he was number 3 with any wet. And that hog was about 1,100-pound hog.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, I figured you'd like that one. That was the favorite.
Oh,
Yeah.
Where did you kill him?
In Oklahoma.
Really?
Yeah, in Oklahoma. Yeah.
It looked
Wow.
fake on the wall. Like when I was watching the video, I was like, that's what I wanted to ask you about. It's huge.
Oh, yeah.
Cutters
he was,
like
he was
that.
113 inches long, and he pulled a 12.5-inch tooth.
Holy smokes. Wonder how old that thing was.
I don't know. He was probably 8 or 10 at least.
How did you pick him up?
But a friend of mine called me from lived in Henrietta, Oklahoma. He said, "There's a hog running around out here." He goes, "That thing looks like he's 6 feet long," and he had broken in. He's got some cattle. The hog had broken into the feed house back there where. He goes, and the thing ate like 200 or 300 pounds of his feed. He goes, he lives on this creek drainage right back here, and he goes, I was going to call the state or somebody. He said, why don't you come over here and he goes, and of course you could see everywhere he went. You know, he'd been rooting down there, and we just set up. And the first afternoon, he come right around in that creek, walked right up to us, and I shot him.
What'd you shoot that one with?
I shot him with a muzzleloader.
Really?
Yeah.
A cannon.
I was gonna say an old musket.
Yeah, I shot him with, and he had it. My buddy had a tractor. We had to get a tractor
Yeah.
to get him up out of the creek. You know, you ought to see that thing how long. He was 113 inches.
Goodness.
We'll have to get a picture of that one and put it on the screen.
So let me ask you, I mean, because people listen to this, they clearly hunt, and some people have a preferred method they hunt. Bows, guns, whatever, handgun, whatever. What is your preferred method?
Well, I'm really an old rifle hunter. I really am, but it doesn't matter to me. I've in my trophy room, it's just about an equal third bow, third muzzleload, third rifle.
See, in Oklahoma, y'all have muzzleloader season, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. See, in Texas, I don't think years ago they tried to do it. They didn't get any interest, so they've kind of combined everything. But there's some states that have bona fide muzzleloader seasons, and you really take advantage of that.
Keith, most states do. Texas is one of the few, and I tip my hat. Nobody brags on the state of Texas more than me. It's the greatest deer for $320. It's the greatest non-resident deer tag in the history of the world.
You got that right.
How much in the state of Oklahoma? I just took a wounded soldier that had bought a non-resident, and it was $300.
I know.
We paid it,
and you get one buck tag and 3 doe tags,
and you get to hunt for 10 days.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, in Texas, you can hunt for 4 months.
Hey, Kansas is over 500. I think Illinois is over 600 now.
And Wyoming is going up. I mean, the cost of licenses is absolutely crazy. And so we have a lot of non-residents come to Texas to hunt, and they say, "How much the license?" At $320, I think it is $320
for everything. Your bow permit and everything.
Everything. Yeah. And it is the most smoking deal there is.
It's nothing can touch it, And there is no place on the face of the earth like the state of Texas to come hunt. People ask me all the time, well, where's your favorite place? Well, it's Texas. Texas. If you're a hunter and you're an outdoorsman and a sportsman, the state of Texas. And I tell Josh every time we cross the Red River headed down here, I don't have to come very far. I could live in this state. I mean, not just because of the hunting, but Texas is a great, great state. And other than Keith being here, most of the people are pretty nice.
Texas is so blessed with so much diverse habitat.
Yes.
Whether it's the mountains of West Texas or the piney woods of East Texas or the arid South Texas, like down here where we are now. I mean, the coastal plains. I mean, Texas has got such a diverse habitat. And like you said earlier, white-tailed deer, they live everywhere.
Yeah.
And some of the biggest white-tailed deer live in Cincinnati. And some of the biggest white-tailed deer live in San Antonio. I mean, these cities. I mean, think about that. People go, well, why do they get so big there? They get old. Think about that. So tell me about your biggest deer. What's the biggest deer you ever shot?
The biggest one I've killed was it's so funny, and it's a great story because they're both from Saskatchewan. And my biggest buck was about a 220, and I killed him off an Indian reservation in September with my muzzleloader. And it was kind of I won't say we got a stroke of luck. We did a little deer drive. And the buck, when he ran out, I knew he was a toad. I knew he was a big one. And he ran down and ran up the hill, and there was a guy up there cutting timber. And the buck run up to that guy and turn around and come right back and run right in front of us, and I shot him. So the guy cutting timber with a chainsaw.
You owe the deer to him.
Scared him back down to us. And Keith, I'll bet his neck wasn't. He couldn't have been more than 3, and he might have been 2.
And he was that big.
He was that big. He was just a little. It was September though. They fell out more. Yeah. But he was. I couldn't believe the body on him. He was not very big bodied. But my biggest buck, bodied wise, was also a Saskatchewan buck, and it was in mid-October during their muzzleload season. I used to just live in Canada in November. I went up there. I've hunted all those provinces. And I just, the older I get, I just don't like the cold weather as much as I used to, So I'm not ever going back up there in November because it can be brutal. But I agreed to go up and hunt with a buddy of mine in mid-October. And it was really kind of real unseasonably warm. And the outfitter we were hunting with, he said, boy, this is our worst year for mature deer. He goes, they're just not moving, and we just haven't hardly. I said, well, that's all right. The weather's nice. I'll come up here because the weather's going to be nice. And he took everybody the second day. Of course, we set the first day and set all day long and saw a few nothing really. And the second day, he took everybody out, and we're sitting waiting. He comes right just almost at daylight and said, "We're just going to go across the street. I got a spot over here." So we get in a little old blind, and the window was not a foot wide and 6 inches. We had to film and shoot out of that little old, and Josh had to get behind me with the camera and put out some bales of alfalfa. And we kind of had deer activity off and on all through the day, and they were just young bucks, but at least, when you're seeing deer up there, it breaks it up, or anywhere you're hunting. And about 3 o'clock, between 2:30 and 3 o'clock, there was a buck out there on the alfalfa. And Josh, it's kind of hard for him to even see through. And this buck walked in, and I looked back at Josh. I said, "There's another buck." And Josh, looked around and said, "That's the same buck." I said, "No, that other buck is behind that one. You just can't see him." This I just knew immediately the body on this deer was, and I'm looking down, trying to think, well, man alive, he didn't have much of a rack on him, but I just couldn't believe how big a body it was. And he took a few more steps, then you could see the other deer. And I said, "I'm gonna shoot this deer if you'll stop." He goes, "Well, just shoot him now." And he did stop over here next to the edge of the timber. I thought, "I'm gonna kill this buck." Down he went, and boy, I was excited. And we got it. He was a 125-inch deer. And we got up to him, walked up to him, and my son at that time had been filming for me 8 or 10 years. It's not like he hadn't seen a deer or two, And he said, "Is that a whitetail?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I've never seen one like that." I said, "Me neither." And he field dressed 290 pounds.
Holy smokes.
Which put a live weight, mid 350?
Yeah.
Whatever. And he just had, and it was early enough. I think the outfitter maybe even heard us shoot, because we were just across the road from where we were staying. And he drove up early, and he said, "Well, look at there." He goes, "You got a real mature one, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "This buck has been this size. I've got pictures for at least 4 years." Wow. So he's an 8-9-year-old deer,
That's a trophy in itself.
Yeah, and I got up, this is so funny. It's a 125-inch deer. And I got up 2 or 3 times before I was so excited about that deer, and I never do this, but I'd look at the footage of me knocking that deer down, And I know nobody's going to believe this, but I was just as excited over killing that big-bodied buck as I was killing that 220 buck.
Absolutely.
We were just talking about that.
I was. That is the honest to God's truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just believe that we have been so blessed to be able to do what we've done for a career. I mean, think about that.
Oh yeah.
We could be plumbers, electricians. I mean, you could do a pianist. I mean, you could do all kinds of things, but we have chosen to do this. We've been fortunate enough to be able to do it. But I want to get back kind of on track and say, because there's a lot of people watching this and probably going, "Man, I'd like to do what he did. I'd like to do what he did." There's a lot behind what goes on, what they see. And I want you to talk about that. Talk about the trap. I mean, the good part. I mean, there's a lot of good part. I mean, you get to come to beautiful places like this. You get to go hunting and stuff. But man, I mean, how many miles a year you drive? The restaurants you stay. I mean, tell everybody kind of the downside of all this.
Well, I'm driving Big Red, my 2001 excursion, and I got 512,000 miles out of the first engine. I just put a new engine in it. A new 7.3.
So Big Red is out in the parking lot right now going,
Yeah.
He's tired.
Yeah. And I just didn't, I hate to say it, but it did cost me quite a bit of money for the new engine, but I just didn't have the heart to sell it, But that's not the first vehicle. All the vehicles are 2 or 3. I know I sat down about 5 years ago and was honest about it. And I stopped it when I knew I had driven a million miles hunting whitetail deer.
Oh yeah. Oh, easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. And so it looks and it is exciting. It is exciting and it is rewarding, but it is you have to have the discipline to just go and go and go and go and go, and it's so hard to when you get a chance to shoot a nice buck but But boy, there's a lot of day. I also put a pin to it, and I have logged over 100,000 hours in a stand.
I believe that. So
You know.
let me ask you this: how do you feel about shooting a deer that you don't have on video?
I've done it a couple of times, but I typically don't.
See, I'm just kind of curious. I think as a viewer, I think the viewers, I mean, they want to learn. Okay?
Yeah.
They want to learn. They want to be entertained.
Yeah.
But they also want to see that kill shot too.
They do.
And then how do you feel about some of these networks that are now not wanting kill shots on there?
Yeah, well, I that's what made Keith. ESPN back in the day was and I guess TBS maybe even, because Jackie Bushman really had, I think, the first national television show that was out.
That was on the Nashville network, or,
Yes.
or Turner TNN, I think they called it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they couldn't show kill scenes. ESPN, when my dear friend Tom Miranda started there, they couldn't show kill scenes, And that's what made the allure of the hunting video so popular.
Right. And so what happened now, all of a sudden we've got there. Well, and also there's so many things to talk about when it comes to outdoor television. Because when you mention television now, people because a lot of people don't even watch television.
Yeah.
They watch on their phone or their laptop, and they all these different platforms. When we started, think about this. When we started, there wasn't but a handful of channels there to be on.
Right.
Okay, and now we don't have enough fingers and toes between us for all the different platforms.
Digital and all that, all the digital, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff.
Right.
And so it becomes, talk about the challenge it is to try, because it's a business. Okay, this is a business. We're hunting because we love it and it's fun, but it's a business. Talk about the challenge in business and trying to keep up, because the cost of entry to get into making videos today is a whole lot cheaper than it was back in the day when we started.
Hey, I have a $60,000 beta cam
That weighs about 40 pounds.
It weighs 40 pounds that I use as a doorstop.
We got some of
He's
them.
got 4 of them at the office.
It's worthless. I have 3/4 inch decks and that stuff. Guys don't realize now what us old timers, what we did.
They don't realize how we would take cables and plug them up to a car battery to power the camera that we're working on.
When we got in a deer stand, I'd have a car battery. We'd haul the car battery up and hook our cables up.
Yes.
Power that sucker all day long.
And so these guys now, I mean, they're making their videos on their cell phones. Okay, they have no clue what it took for us to get there. I mean, back in the day. And so also at the same time, we didn't have any. I mean, there was 20 years ago, nobody knew what Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of stuff was. And now all of a sudden, all these people out there doing all that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, there's a different viewer that's on those platforms than there is on TV. Is what I've found. How about you?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And I have to be careful how I word this with tongue in cheek. But when I go, Keith, between the two of us, we got 100 years of experience. We're almost 140. You put us together.
We didn't start till late in life.
Yeah. And but when I meet a lot of the young upcomers or whatever, I think we've earned a certain amount of respect. I mean, I don't demand it from anybody, but I think that we have earned the respect.
Well,
we paved the way.
We paved the way.
And now the cost of entry, the barriers to entry are so low that anybody can just grab a camera, get on there. But you guys had to do a lot more getting into it back then, especially with the big cameras, all the tapes. I guarantee you got the same room that this guy does right here, full of tapes all over the place.
Oh my Lord, yeah. And you know what? We did it without trail cameras too.
Yeah,
right. And so and now I think these people. What is amazing to me, I see what I think one of the biggest threats to the future of hunting is, and when I tell you, I bet you're not going to disagree. It's hunters are the biggest threat to the future of hunting.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because they're always, it's like my way's better than your way.
Yeah, and it can't happen fast enough. And yeah.
And so as a viewer, okay, the people watching on TV, it's like we talk about, it's a different viewer for the people watching online, and the people online want it right now.
Oh yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And the thing I tell people, look, that sunset doesn't come up. It doesn't fall right now. And the sunrise, it takes a while for Mother Nature to evolve. And it took a while for our careers to take off. You know, and so when did you decide, I mean, after you started on TV, that you're going to stay in this full time? When you smoked everybody's butt at the Outdoor Channel Awards?
No, I was fortunate enough in the video business to the second year that I started making hunting videos. Well, first of all, the number one video distributor in the nation, DMI, was in Oklahoma City. So that's just 120 miles from me. And the guy that ran and owned that company he liked me, took a liking to me. And he called me and he's real rough and gruff. Come over, I need to talk to you. So I drove over and he said, I want you to make me some more hunting. And I started laughing. No, my hunting video days are over. No. And he said, I'll put up the money. I'll front you the money, but you got to use one of two people to do the filming. And he hooked me up with a guy named Wade Nolan. Wade's no longer with us. A lot of people we know from the old days are no longer with us.
You got that right.
Yeah. And he was a professional. And he worked with me, and we got lucky on some things. And the next year, I released a tape called "Whitetails East of the Mississippi." Plenty of big bucks to spare, and it became the #1 selling hunting video in the nation that year. And after that, I just had a funny feeling that I was going to be making hunting videos a while. And I told my wife, I said, I think I can make more money doing that than I can painting apartments. Well. You know, but then she'd kind of gotten used to me being gone, you know, and that was when I knew that I was probably going to be doing this for a while.
Well, there's a lot of upside to what we're doing, but one of the downsides is that your diet. You know, think about that, and you know probably where I'm going with this now. He probably doesn't, but when you're on the road, you stop at truck stops and get a hot dog and French fries, and I mean you're not eating real good, and so your tendency and you're on the run all the time, and so I mean we're not eating real good, and at one point you got rather large. Okay, I mean you were just a fraction of what you were.
Now,
tell everybody about what happened and what kind of motivated you to lose weight and how you lost weight and what you're doing with it.
Okay, well I appreciate that. I got up to over 290, and it just happens, you know, over time. And most guys, you know, especially over 50, can relate. You just start putting on pounds. But my Lord, Keith, I got so big I couldn't cut my own toenails. And you know, you drop a quarter, you go, I don't know, is it worth bending over and trying to pick up that quarter or not? You know, and we had a hog hunt in June that summer, and I'm looking at the footage, and I just was so disgusted. I thought, man, I look more like a hog than the hog I'm hunting. I just was just big old gut and my fat face and miserable. I was getting heavy, and I thought, I'm just going to get. And I actually told my wife, if I don't do something, I'm going to weigh over 300 by Christmas. I know I am. And I got out of bed and I started doing a little bit of research, and I'd been on some diets before, you know, but diets are not for the weak-hearted, and I'll never get. I got out of bed at the end of July, and I said, it starts today, and I'm going to lose this weight. I said, and my exact words were, you're not going to like me over the next few months, but I'm going to take this weight off. And also, it was affecting what I could do, how I could, and I thought I need to prolong I looked at it as a way to prolong my career. And so I went on a very strict diet, did certain things I wouldn't do, and I've stuck with it and did not cheat. And in 5 months, I lost 80 pounds. I lost 42 total inches and 10 pant sizes, and just changed my life.
I know that I walked up to you and I said, gee, are you all right? Remember that?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was like it was like you look like Roger, but where's the weight? And,
yeah.
But tell everybody what you're doing, because that's a wonderful story, and you're helping people motivate themselves and actually be more successful. So talk about that.
Yeah, we when I got back from the SHOT Show and the archery trade show, I mean, I was shocked at how I knew people were going to recognize that I'd had a change, but my manager at the time, I told him, I said, I think that we need to start a streaming channel, and I'm not a doctor. To this day, I don't profess to be, I'm not a nutritionist. I got a lot of college degrees, but none of them are in that. I said, I'm just going to tell people what I did and how I did it, and see if we can't help other people do it too. And we launched our streaming channel that summer, and it took a couple of months, after a couple of months, the testimony started coming in. I got on your diet. I did what you said, and I just tell people, now look, this is what I did. Here's what I did. Here's how I did it. And we're going into our 5th year, and we've had several thousand people probably lose close to 1 million pounds.
Wow.
And I've written a book, A Big Deal, and it's a big seller on Amazon. It's available on Amazon.com. And but just the testimonies just keep rolling in, and it just people who have been diabetic. I mean, it's not for I tell people you need to be healthy because it's a 100% it's a dramatic change in your diet and no exercise. In fact, I recommend you do not exercise while you're on the diet,
So it's a lifestyle change.
It's a lifestyle change. But it's not, the hardest thing is just getting started. But we have, I have a private Facebook page, the support that the people who have lost the weight are on there helping each other. There's a team rooting for you. If you get hung up, you can send me emails, and we have a forum on the streaming channel, RogerRaglinChannel.com. And it costs me to have the channel, but it's $10 a month. And it's the best $10. If you want to lose weight and change your lifestyle, it's the best $10 you'll ever spend a month, It's one stop at Starbucks.
Yeah.
Boy, isn't that the
At
truth?
least,
It's
yeah.
true, yeah. So, but I find it gratifying when I hear the stories and when I'm at a show and a guy walks up to me and he says, I want to thank you, man. And I didn't know it, I hadn't heard from him. I got on your diet and I lost 60 pounds, and the doctor took me off my high blood pressure, or I was diabetic, and now I'm not a diabetic anymore. It's a neat thing.
So let me ask you this, because we're going to be running out of time here. Look pretty quick. I'm looking over here. Let me ask you, one of these days when we go to the Happy Hunting Grounds, okay, when you check out,
Right.
how do you want to be remembered?
Oh, I don't know. I think about that,
I think the older we get, we all think about it.
You have to. What are they going to put on my tombstone? Or what am I going to tell Darlene to put on my tombstone? I just don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, see, I mean, I think that the older people get, the more that sinks in one day. I mean, and maybe that's the reason why we keep pushing ourselves. We do. Because think about that, the sand's going out of the hourglass.
Yes.
And one night we're not going to be sitting there waiting for that sun to go down and that big buck to come walking in.
Right.
And I think for that reason you drive Big Red the way you did all the way down here.
Yeah. Oh, I had another classmate last week drop dead with a heart attack. I mean, it's every few months somebody that I know close to me, my age, is gone. And it can happen in a hurry.
Yeah, it can happen. And that's for that reason I believe in living life big. I mean, making the best out of it. And I think that you have done a phenomenal job helping motivate people, not just to lose some weight recently in the last 4 or 5 years, but you've done a phenomenal job helping people enjoy the outdoors more, be more successful in the outdoors, and helping, the way I look at it, you're a warrior, helping protect the future of the outdoors. And that to me is a commendable thing. When somebody doesn't quit, they don't quit. I mean, how many mornings did you sit in the deer stand and it was 8 degrees and you had to bust ice to get there and you didn't see anything?
Yeah, oh boy, yeah, lots of them.
But you didn't quit.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to come on here, and I feel the same way with you, Keith. You've done a great job, and we're we're just about the same age, and I'll make a deal with you. You know, when you really get closer to time to hang, you call me and we'll hang up our spurs together. Or we'll ride off into the
I was gonna
sunset.
say, that's
Neither
never
one
gonna
of us are going to
happen.
hang them up. You know that. Well, folks, check out Roger Raglin. I mean, we've had the information up on the screen. Check him out. I mean, he is a hell of a good guy, and he's a hell of a good friend for anybody in the outdoors. I mean, it's like he has helped protect the future of the outdoors for generations, and he has changed a lot of people's lives for the better. So anyway, appreciate y'all watching, and we will see y'all, I guess, next go around.
Yeah, and check out the People Who Hunt podcast. We're gonna have it going up on multiple channels. You know, we'll put all the information on the screen for you to find us. But Roger, you got some Neil guy to go hunt, don't you?
Yeah, this afternoon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so hopefully he's going to get a chance
Yeah.
to grab one like that. I promise you're going to need a tractor to pick him up.
Yeah, that's what I hear. That's what I hear.
Well, folks, thanks for watching. Let us hear from you. We'll see you next time.
People Who Hunt can be watched on Facebook and YouTube and listened to on all major platforms.